They've started the timer. I can hear myself. And the slides are up. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. My name is Munir Mirza. I'm the General Manager of End User Computing in AWS. We have an absolutely jam-packed agenda today to talk about a bunch of different stuff. A little bit of discussion on our business and who we are, what we're all about. We've got 3 awesome guest speakers that are going to talk to you a lot about their experiences with our services. And the most important thing that I would love for everybody to take away from our guest speakers this morning is real business impact, business value, and how they're thinking about the future with our services. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up with some features, some things that we've launched, and some announcements that we've made here this week and leading up to reInvent. So let me dig in. Assuming I'm going forward. No, I'm going backwards. All right, here we go. 13 years in AWS. Pardon me, 13 years at Amazon. That's how long I've been with the company. 8 years in AWS. A lot of very different services, a lot of very different experiences. But I think without a doubt, and I'm probably not speaking for everybody here, but for many of us, like, what the heck happened these last year and a half? It's been some of the craziest times, some of the most trying times, some of the most difficult things that we've had to deal with. And the cool thing, I think, about the work that all of our teams do together with end user computing, with the end user computing services in AWS, is prepare for all the changes that have happened. So if you've needed to make some quick decisions, as many folks have, there's a little note there about radical changes happening overnight. This group has been the group aiming to support that as best we possibly can. There is all kinds of feedback, and you'll hear and see some features that we've done, and you'll hear some data that we've gathered on it about why security is at the top of everyone's mind when they're thinking about our services and when they're thinking about what you're doing with the intellectual property that your teams are creating, that your users are using, that's being perhaps strewn across a whole bunch of different devices. These are the sorts of services that are aimed to address a lot of those problems. And we're very humbled to be able to work with you to do so. All right. Insofar as these past couple years, one of the things that we're tremendously pleased about and also, again, very humbled about is just the growth that our services have been observing, the growth that we've been going through. And we have nobody to thank but the group here today, but the group of customers with whom we get to learn from, we get to trade notes, we get to figure out how to move forward with. As you can see in the slide, we've averaged about 100% growth year over year for the past 4 years. This year, our numbers aren't quite done yet, but we're still remaining very pleased with the way that things are going. So why? Why are we growing? Why have we grown as well as we are better than we expected, frankly? It's our focus on 2 types of customers. First, I think the most important, the actual end user. These are the people who are giving the IT teams the feedback about what's working, what's not working, whether the audio quality is good enough, whether the pixels are pixelated, whether there's some halo effect, whether the performance works, whether the natural ease of use, whether the capabilities that they would expect from their desktops, whether they're working properly. And as they filter that feedback in, it's incumbent on us to do something about it. So our focus on those end users and making sure that they have the tools to do their jobs every day has been a top priority. But we also can't forget, I think, just as important set of customers, the actual folks who configure it, the folks who set it up, the folks who are taking all this feedback from the end users. It's the IT teams, many of you here today. The folks who are actually out there trying to think about, how do I manage costs? How do I manage the security risk? How do I ensure that my desktops are being deployed safely, quickly? How do I make sure that my data is secure? These are the kinds of problems that we get to work on with you as well. So again, our focus on those 2 types of users has been a big part of what's fueled some of our growth over the past several years. For the most part, our services are broken down across some of the dimensions that you see here. These are the types of workloads that we see: the contact centers, contingent staff, doing app migrations, CAD/CAM applications for very compute-intensive applications. But I want to take a moment and tell you guys a very personal story. One of the reasons that frankly fuels me to remain at AWS, what I feel like keeps me feeling like I do something special. I try and make a difference. And so throughout the pandemic, I have 2 kids, and like many folks who were going through it, they were at home with me. And they were doing their remote schooling over Zoom, and making sure that I was part-time dad, part-time cafeteria cook, part-time tutor, part-time whole bunch of things. And there was a lot in the press about that, right? There was a lot in the press about how parents responded throughout the pandemic. There was a lot in the press about how educators responded throughout the pandemic. There's a lot in the press about how administrators were able to put together a curriculum despite the fact that they didn't have the same tools and resources that they had in the past. Well, I met one customer, a really, really special customer, certainly not, one of our biggest customers. No critical feedback, nothing crazy that they wanted to say. They just wanted to have a chance to meet some of the folks in AWS that enabled a very important workload. This individual is the director of IT for one of the largest school districts here in the United States. And it was an incredibly compelling story that this individual shared with me. Specifically that, the just sheer size of the school district meant that he had to figure out how to deal with a very wide variety of users. People who had never used technology in the home before, so they have no such thing as a laptop or a computer. There's no tech savvy in that household. There's absolutely no internet connection in that household. So he had to figure out how to ship laptops to thousands of households, how to help people set up those laptops so they can actually access their online curriculum. He had to figure out, how do I get Wi-Fi hotspots in thousands of homes as well, because if you don't have a computer at home, there's no way you have an internet connection at home. How to configure that, and how to do it with a bunch of folks with instructions that are so straightforward that anybody in the household would be able to follow them and actually get the kids online. And it was a really, really cool story for me. It was his opportunity to say, hey, thank you, because they ended up using AppStream for some of their remote labs. As much as we talk about remote work, these remote students are just as important, and arguably thinking about our future, perhaps even a little more so important. And so with AppStream out there, one of the really, really cool things that he was able to observe for the very first time in that school district's history was that every student had access to the exact same technology. Everybody had access to the exact same apps. It didn't matter the type of computer that you had. It didn't matter whether you had the latest iPhone or whether you had a cool Chromebook or something like that. It didn't matter at all. What mattered is this individual was able to ensure that the students and the teachers in that school district were able to be as equally productive as anybody else out there. What they saw was engagement go up, what they saw was grades go higher, and what they felt was like, there is no way in heck we're going to screw this up. We are not going to change this. And even though they've gone back to the classrooms now, they're still a big user of AppStream. And it's an incredibly cool story. It's one of those reminders for me that this is a role, this is a job where I get a chance to do something really special in my industry. All right, who do we want to be? We want to be the kind of company that helps folks not only address the problems that you're dealing with today, but thinking about, what the future of work is going to look like. How are we going to shape up our services? How are we going to shape up what we do, ensuring that we have this very, very productive future? And so you can see here, and this is one of these things that I get asked about a lot, like, hey, tell me a little bit about the future of work. And I'm kind of like, well, the future's happening right now. Like, there's a whole collection of things that, as I mentioned a few slides ago, like, we've had to enable radical change overnight. You've had to think about very difficult decisions that you've needed to make overnight. And so these are some of the sort of staples of how we guide ourselves throughout it. We want to be there when you need it. We want to work at a company. We want you to work at a company that thinks of us, a service provider for you that puts you first. We want to make sure that you have the ability to scale up and scale down within minutes across the globe. And we want to make sure that top of mind for us and that our customers understand top of mind for us is data security and the integrity of the workload that you're trying to get done. And we think, as a result of that focus, that it drives the adoption that we've seen, that I mentioned a few slides ago with that tremendous growth that we've gone through. And this slide is always one of my favorite slides to put up there. We call it the NASCAR slide for obvious reasons. It looks like a cool set of logos. But it's a reminder of just how important of a role that we play. Making sure that we not only fit within the workloads that you have, but that we're able to support the most mission-critical workloads within your enterprise. And you're going to get a chance to hear about some of that a little bit more, a little bit later today. So that first piece, workforce flexibility, right? This is something that I think we've lived through for the past year and a half, right? It's a little Gartner stat. 51% of all of the workers that they surveyed said, hey, we're expecting some sort of remote work. Significant number of those are going to be working in a hybrid environment, some of them fully remote. You're going to hear a little bit about hybrid and fully remote with some of our guests today. But this is, this is what we expect, and this is what our customers are telling us is commonplace. So what are we doing to enable that, right? Well, some of our sort of tenets, again, around workforce flexibility, and making sure that we remain as one of those agile teams, allowing you to get a whole bunch of stuff done. Well, we want to take that fully managed bit, and here's what that means if you've ever had to worry about scaling for peak minute. And a lot of folks who know this, like, you've gone to that point of like, hey, like I've got to buy hardware. I have to make sure that my software is deployed to scale for that 1 minute of the year that is the biggest. And then after that, what am I supposed to do with it? And that's where these fully managed services come in. That's where AWS has traditionally been very, very strong. In ensuring that you don't have to worry about that problem. We will manage that capacity for you. We want you to be able to spin it up and spin it down. In large enterprises, that there's no expectation that you're going to go through the console and click through 10 million times. So we need to provide a tremendous number of APIs for you, a lot of control that has to be able to get done through those APIs. And finally, like, there's got to be this really, really cool user experience. It's got to be high performance. It's got to be super secure. And then I think something that's very important to us, and this may sound subtle, but like, we want to be able to get out of the way. We don't want to be in a user's way. It's not about our Chrome. It's not about our features. It's not about all this crazy stuff when a user is doing their job and being productive. It is about the task at hand and getting that done. I keep hitting the back button. All right. Some of the features that we've launched enabling this. So recently, one of the big ones was enabling Linux on AppStream. This was a huge, huge ask from customers. One of the really, really nice things about using AppStream is that when you just need an app, just use the app. Just get that app. And the cool thing about AppStream is that it enables access via the browser. We've got a thick client as well. Now you can take a lot of these apps, like whether you're using Eclipse, whether it's just the browser like Firefox or Chrome, lots of other engineering tools, lots of CAD, CAM applications that are running over Linux. This is one of the best ways to go about saving costs. You're cutting your license fees, and you're still being as productive as you ever have been before. And of course, you can still access it from a Windows desktop, from a Mac, etc. So really, really cool opportunity that we've been fortunate enough to work with to deliver on behalf of customers. And another one, this was a tremendous amount of engineering effort. We've been thinking about it for a good amount of time. Of course, we've seen, customers coming to us and saying, hey, we've got a very, very large workload. We've got a very, very large fleet. So we've had to say, all right, well, we need to be able to support what we call XXL fleets. Over 50,000 AppStream instances that can be running at any one time. So we're very, very excited to offer these things that are huge scale and hopefully very, very beneficial to a lot of the larger or extra large workloads that we see with our customers. enough of me talking for now. I'm going to hand it over to my first guest speaker. Her name's Kelly Green. She's the Director of IT Services at Amazon, one of my teammates, one of my colleagues. Kelly, take it away.
Thanks, Munir. Hi, everybody. As Munir said, I'm Kelly Green. I lead IT services for the corporate side of Amazon. And that includes about 500,000 Amazonians right now. And so although my journey doesn't equal the school district in complexity, there was a lot of change required as a result of the pandemic. So before the pandemic, we had about 25,000 active workspaces. Think of them as users, and those tended to be fairly technical users who were using a workspace as an alternative to their everyday work device. So we also had some remote workers, some contingent workforce, and we used workspaces for mergers and acquisitions. So as we onboarded new folks, we would give a workspace as an alternative until we were able to get them a device. So we were happy customers of workspaces before the pandemic and felt it was a really great addition to our IT offering. And then, of course, March 2020, things changed dramatically overnight for me and for all of you in the IT profession. And we knew that with the new hire onboarding being now 100% remote, we were going to have to make changes. Initially, our plan was that everyone would onboard with a workspace and start using that as their very first exposure to working with all of Amazon's tools and technology. So we were excited about the possibilities of security, agility, the cost, because we can obviously spin up these resources and then spin them down as they are no longer needed, scale and support. We saw that this was going to be a way for us to bridge the traditional new hire onboarding experience, which was in person fully. We would fly people across continents to attend a new hire orientation in person prior to the pandemic, and Workspaces was going to be a substitute. We learned some things in that journey. And one of the things that we learned is that people who are onboarding also want their company-issued device if they are eligible for one. There's something about starting a new job and getting everything set up, right? Having everything the way that you're going to work. And so what we found is that we offered both. We started shipping laptops to those people that are eligible, plus having a workspace available. And our story then became, well, if anything should happen, we don't have local IT support available. Your workspace is going to be an alternative that'll keep you up and running. And so we expanded the use cases from our prior to the pandemic, the ones we talked about before, to more onboarding, work from home, and secure access to sensitive data. And we scaled from our 25,000 to 175,000 active workspaces very quickly. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how we did that. So first of all, we onboard on a low volume week about 2,000 new hires in a week. But during the pandemic, as many of you know, Amazon was growing really rapidly. Luckily, I'm not onboarding people into the fulfillment centers, but every corporate Amazonian is someone I'm responsible for getting onboarded. And at the peak of the pandemic, we were onboarding 5,000 people a week. And so we needed to have this week over week growth of 5,000 workspaces, and we needed that to be very self-service oriented. So any user could spin up and get this resource for themselves without the help of IT. So we would get new hires provisioned on the Friday evening for their Monday orientation, and we had a web portal for self-service that we were able to build really quickly. What do I mean by very quickly? Well, 2 engineers who did the scaling from the 25,000 to the 175,000. And they did that in about a week and a half. And that was our effort to build that self-service portal so that everyone could get access to our workspace on their own without the intervention of IT, which is what was required prior to the pandemic. We made sure that we were very well scaled from a cost perspective. Even within Amazon, we're interested in making sure that our AWS costs are not too high. And so we have 88% of our instances that are automatically stopped if users aren't using them. And we also came up with an idea of a restricted workspace. This was really critical to us during the pandemic. As you know, areas of the world, there were geographic restrictions on shipping anything. In India, in South Africa, in other geographies, there was only essential goods allowed to travel on the roads, and our laptops and even our security keys were not allowed to be shipped at different periods during the pandemic. So we came up with the restricted workspace for onboarding only that allowed access to email and certain resources for training and onboarding so that a user could get themselves started and start becoming productive until we could get them that security key and laptop or other device. So that's a little bit about our story, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for you after the session.
Thank you, Kelly.
Welcome.
Kelly's team are some of the best negotiators of any customer with whom I've ever had the chance to work with. And so, they do definitely drive those very, very low costs and very, very fair prices. But more importantly, the real big key punchlines, 2 engineers, 25K workspaces to 175K workspaces. You gotta go fast. That's what everybody keeps telling me is you got to go fast. I can't wait. My business has decisions, we have work we've got to get done, and it's my job, it's my team's job to make sure that we're enabling you to get that work done as quickly as you possibly can and not getting in the way. And so that's one of those really, really cool messages that I always take away from working with Kelly's team. Security. This was the next big thing. This was the next big theme that we talk about very, very regularly. It turns out we're not the only ones that talk about it. According to our colleagues at IDC, this seems to be top of mind for a lot of folks. No kidding, right? We hear you. We hear you. This is important to us. So how? Company data, that is the number one thing that customers talk to me about. It is always, always, always top of mind. Thinking about, especially throughout the pandemic, what does your company data look like? Where is it? I don't have access. I haven't met a lot of these folks. They don't come into the office. I don't know, as Kelly described, I don't know the sort of geographic concerns that we may have with being able to ship some of the security-related things, artifacts, the tokens, the YubiKeys some folks need. We don't know how easily we can get it out there. So our services give customers that sort of location of control, that ability to say, hey, it is still within the perimeter that I want to create for my data. And that is a really, really important part about why folks come to us in AWS, because we not only think about it with our services, with Workspaces, with AppStream, but we think about it across the board at AWS, over 230 different services and features that you'll be able to use. A team of folks who think about security 24/7. This is obviously very, very important to us. As is compliance, that's almost always next on the list. In many cases, with a lot of customers and a lot of workloads, they go hand in hand. Over 200 compliance features within AWS and many, many more, obviously, that we've had a chance to work with customers on for EUC services. And then the last thing that I think last major theme that people talk to me about with security is, hey, like it's time for us to evolve the way that customers access, my users access the applications and the resources that are within my corporate perimeter. And so, okay, cool. Like, let's move towards this these zero trust networks. Let's move towards saying, I don't trust whatever's happening on the device. I do want to be able to say it's within my control. I don't want to say that my network provides all the security and that peace of mind. Let's help customers develop authentication within their applications so that users can access those apps as SaaS apps from anywhere. And we've got some really, really cool things that we've done to enable just that. One of the things that I'm really, really excited about, and we've gotten a ton of feedback, especially from some of our public sector customers, is smart card support. This is something that's gone worldwide with a number of our services, both AppStream and Workspaces. And then another thing, it's a little subtle thing, but the Yubico YubiKey, and Google's been innovating on this as well, but we've provided support for that. The universal second factor authentication, that next step of multi-factor auth, this is a big thing that we want to get out there so that we're not all relying on PINs or username and password exclusively, as I think we have been for the last little bit. We do have a customer, Sitel, who's going to talk a tremendous amount about security. There's a EUC session, I believe it's a breakout session, EUC 304. If you get a chance, Steven Statler and I believe Jim Haywood are going to be a part of it. Please do take a chance to check that out. Security is top of mind for Sitel, of course, and they've taught us a lot about it. And who better to describe a lot more than the Sitel journey than Jason Scaria, my good colleague, the CIO at Sitel. Jason, come on up.
Thanks, Munir. Cool. So I'll start by apologizing for this picture. Our chief marketing officer loves to continue to slip this in every time I take it out. When we get back, we're just going to have to disable his AD account. It's enough. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Scaria. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Sitel Group. So a little bit about Sitel. We are one of the largest global providers of customer experience solutions and products. We have 160,000 associates that operate in 40 different countries. And what we do is enable customer experiences for over 700 brands. Our associates do this via voice, chat, email, and social media. They experience over 8 million conversations a day in 50 different languages. So our goal is to provide superior customer service through meaningful engagements and increasing brands of our customers. So work from home, like most, was not even something that we considered or thought about for various things. So pre-pandemic, all of our services were delivered in a classic call center. So people came throughout the world, we had large call centers, and that's how we operated. Classic technology stack, Microsoft, SCCM for orchestration and for doing patching, and GPOs for doing policy, AD GPOs. So classic. But because we inherit our customers' applications, we have over 700 of those images. So it's not just one image fits all, but we take in 700 of those images and have to do the care and feeding, housekeeping, maintenance for all those particular images. A remote landscape just before this. So like most, we had VPN to support corporate people. People work from home and be able to do that while they're traveling. We did have a small VDI instance with another third-party provider. So we had about 3,000 of those that were work from home that did support agents. A small workspaces that we were just starting to play with before in 2019. And then clients that actually had embraced work from home had brought their solutions. So about 2,500 of those. But we could never get this. This was never going to be a strategy for us. We couldn't get this off the ground because clients didn't consider they had the same controls of their agent or any of their processes at home as they did in center. Well, 2020 happens and the pandemic starts. So we had to look at what was in our tool bag of how do we get these agents working from home right away. Countries every day were starting to shut down. We're doing stop and suspending operations in center, and we had to react to that. So we had VPN as part of our toolkit. But we did the assessment that with current infrastructure and bandwidth, we can only support about 20,000. Well, we've got 100,000 people that we had to support at that time. We had that VDI provider that was part of that toolkit. but they were experiencing the same challenges that we were experiencing. They couldn't ramp up fast to the deliveries that we were asking for. They didn't have enough infrastructure as well, and they just couldn't get there. So the last thing that we had is that workspaces that we started to look at. And it's like, okay, can we do this? Huge thing for us, even though we want to move people into more of chat, social media, and email, is still voice. Can we get voice working inside of that workspace? And so we were just ecstatic when it's like, okay, we've got a couple of soft phones that finally are actually working. So let's go to town with this. This is the only solution that we've got. Let's make this happen. So quickly, we put together our networking teams, our work-at-home engineers, our server engineers, and created this task team of like, let's go through the viability of this. We created build teams throughout the globe because we had to start standing up those 700 images. It was every day prioritizing which image are we setting up next, which image are we setting up next, how are we going to get them working, getting these workspaces set up, being able to get these clients working. So everyone's got their journey and their story about the 2020 pandemic. Ours was Friday the 13th, March 13th in 2020. One of our centers shut down in Spartanburg. We had a case there. And so the team had to work all weekend because we sent all of our agents home, and then we're like, how do we get them working on Monday? And so all weekend, setting up, again, just working with VPN, but starting to explore what we were able to do with VDIs and getting them there. So we're like, great, finish that one. We come in on Monday, Spain closes. In the call center arena, Philippines is a huge market for us. They suspended all in-center operations in that same week. And then lastly, we issued ourselves that too much is going on. We're doing stay-at-home orders for across the globe, for across the US. So inside of that week, we had all of those opportunities. By about the end of March, we had EMEA that was doing shutdown orders in almost every country. And so we really had to start ramping up. Literally, I can remember one in Portugal. It was, we're shutting down, you have 4 hours to get out of the office. We asked everyone, just grab your PC and go home. Go make that happen. So a lot of it was that, just take the device that they have and send them home, and you do that via VPN. So we're going through, and it's like, okay, LATAM now shuts down around sometime about April 10th. So we're good. We think, okay, we've managed this. It's been a lot of work. We're going through every day. And we got to the end of April, and I was like, all right, we've got a combination of VPN users. We've got workspaces that are working. We've actually been able to preserve revenue. We're taking calls again. This is all working well. What happens to good IT teams that are successful? You just get more work. So what happened to us? Our salespeople decided to say, hey, let's sell this capability. You guys are able to do things that other BPOs are just not able to get done there. And so they were successful in selling it. They sold to, in EMEA, a national health provider, taking over their COVID response and track and trace for the entire country. Fantastic, except we sold it on 5/8. They wanted to go live in 3 weeks, and they wanted it at peak, ramp to 35,000 agents. So it was like, what are we going to do? One of the classic lines, I think, from Jim, who's here, and from his team, is bring it on. We've had the workspace experience now. We can absolutely do that kind of ramp. So within the first 2 weeks, we were able to ramp and go live with 10,000 agents, and then eventually move off to 35,000 agents. So really getting that done. We had to take over their processes, another outsourced provider, and then ramp to all of these agents that are out there. So what did that end up meaning for us? We started with 300 workspaces, and then our capability within the first 25 days, we were able to spin up another 10, and then we run that track and trace program, and we were able to spin up another 20,000 workspaces in just 16 days. So it just, I don't know of anything else that was in our toolkit that would allow us that particular capability. It was just amazing. So results, everything's about results. What does it mean? Lastly, that we continue to do PCI certification. So we were like, all right, it's our current ROC. This now is a part of our tool. Let's try this out. And we had to, a surprise of many of us is like we were able to actually get the solution PCI certified. So we've got it now. It's like you can't use that objection anymore. Where do we sit today? So right now, we have completely pivoted. We have started the acceleration of shutting down centers. Work at home is here to stay. Work at home is absolutely going to be part of how we deliver services. Right now, we have about 65,000 virtual associates that are taking calls for our brands every day. 30,000 is about where we run with workspaces. So that's absolutely part of our key components for that solutions. We're operating work at home in 40 countries. So you name the particular challenge that you have in the Philippines, Often an agent is sitting in a multi-generational home, and they're working US hours, and we were having to struggle with what's going on with, why is it that their call quality and audio is so bad? We started listening, and it's because they were whispering on the call. Because their grandparents are sleeping in the same room, and they're taking calls on behalf of our US clients. So it was fascinating to understand just what does work at home mean in each of these different countries. And then lastly, with revenue. We started 2020, clients saying that we may be out of business. So that meant no revenue for us. We didn't know what the future held for us. We ended 2020 doing 18% year-over-year growth and doing our best revenue year ever. It was fantastic. So not all just business, right? What did it mean to agent experience? And this is probably the best story that we love. So when we polled our work at home people, we had 32% lower absenteeism, 27% lower attrition, and better schedule adherence, in that you have to roll out of bed, take a shower, and you're at work. So it was great. And then when we polled, 82% prefer this way to work. We don't want to come in the center anymore. We'd rather do this. So it was a fantastic solution for us.
Really cool to hear. Very similar to the story that I described a little bit earlier, with the school district, right? If you don't mind, I'm going to go back that slide. Just to hammer home this point, lower absenteeism, lower attrition. This is what the associates prefer, right? That feedback comes across loud and clear over and over and over again. And that's what this is all about. We don't want to be in your way. We want to enable results like this. Especially at a time, you hear a lot of press about the Great Resignation. You hear a lot of things that, hey, like what's going on here? Well, good. Like if we can set up our staff to be productive in the way that they want to be productive, fantastic. This is exactly the kind of workload experience that my team and I would love to be providing for you. There when you need it. One thing I did forget to say, and I was hoping to say this a little earlier, but it totally slipped my mind. I want to thank Jason. It actually is my fault that glamour shot of him is there. I was insistent that we put it on as soon as we saw it. So thank you, sir, for that. You indulged me. There when you need it. Okay, what does that mean? Here's a good stat. Reiterated both by Kelly and by Jason in their conversations with you here today. Look, if it's going to take about 5 days to spin up a desktop, well, this isn't going to work. As Kelly was describing it, when that employee starts, it's really important to get that set up, to get it right so that they can feel like they can contribute in a meaningful way. I think one of the most important things, especially with a new hire, is to make them feel like they can get that first win. And it's often that first loss because you fumbled for the first few days just trying to get that system set up. You know what your job is, you know what you interviewed for, but you can't be productive in it. And so being able to take 4.8 days and get it down to hours, being able to get it down to minutes, that's exactly what we feel like we're all about. But it's not just about going fast recklessly. Right? We've got to think about how to do it in a very, very conscious, a very, very thoughtful way. So we're gonna create these tensions. This is a big part of how we think about our workloads. This is a big part of how we think about our engineering. Create some tensions with it, so you don't just go fast at the expense of quality. So you don't think about cutting corners. You don't think about, well, how do I save dollars again at the expense of other things? These are false choices. So we have this published 99.9% uptime SLA that's financially backed. We will give you your money back if we don't meet this SLA, and we make no bones about that. That is just who we are. Our job is to be available in all of the countries and all of the regions that you want to see us in. And finally, like you've come to expect from AWS, that if there ever is an issue, that we are going to obsess about getting to the very, very bottom of that issue. We are going to need help from time to time. We're going to need to be able to dig into things with our customers together, but it is not something that we will stop at. We will never, never, never say, it didn't happen, let's just move on. Or, oh, it's over, thank goodness, we're all happy, we don't need to think about it. It is important for us to make sure that we address the root cause and that we can be as transparent as we can. We do think very, very hard about features in this regard as well. We think very, very hard about creating that convenience so that we can continue to be there where you need it. 2 big region launches, London for AppStream, Mumbai for Workspaces. We want to continue to be more globally available and increase that global footprint. All right, the last speaker for today, my good colleague, Mr. Ryan Church, the Chief Technology Officer from IHS Markit. We also work tremendously not only with enterprises, but with a bunch of software vendors, and Ryan's going to describe his journey with our services as well. Thank you, sir.
Morning. I'm Ryan Church, the CTO of WSO at IHS Markit, and we'll go over a little bit of what WSO is. WSO Application Suite provides our portfolio management, administration, software, and services to credit investors. These products perform critical roles across syndicated loans and private debt markets, providing visibility into the portfolio performance and reducing manual data entry. Overall, we've got multiple ways that we deliver our content, our software, our services to our customers. Our fully managed outsourced solution manages over $650 billion in investments, with over 200 clients settling over 43,000 trades a month. We also provide a new service on the software side with single-tenant environments, where we now have over 147 secured single-tenant environments. And across all of that, we've got 650 daily users who are financial analysts using our platform through AppStream 2. We're going to go a little bit off track now. Our challenges were, of course, much like everybody else's, impacted by the pandemic. But at the same time, the financial services sector was dealing with complex regulatory changes. This is what we call LIBOR cessation. LIBOR is an interest rate used across assets and definitely across loans. And part of the problem that these regulators brought in is that as we were moving off of LIBOR to other rates, each country's regulators picked a different rate and picked different ways that they were going to use that rate. That made it very complex to code, very complex to deliver these updates through the changing regulatory purview of the last 2 years. We also have our challenges with limitations with our client server software base, with limitations on our traditional software deployment model. Traditionally, we would ship out a new version to our software clients at about once a year. It just doesn't work anymore. When we're getting regulatory changes quarter over quarter for the last 2 years that we have to keep up with, it just doesn't work for our clients. Then as we move into delivering more software as a service, of course, the financial sector requires significant high availability for all those services, for these critical applications and their roles. So where we started from moving our software, which is a traditional desktop application, leveraging AppStream 2 to deliver that through that browser experience and migrate a good deal of those clients from those on-premise locations into our managed service, where we can now deliver them software at least on a quarterly basis. For our outsourced solution, we're now delivering new content on a monthly basis at minimum. The way we achieved that was going through our build and deployment pipelines, refactoring the entire suite of how we deliver software so that as we build new changes, as our development teams commit new code, we build new images with that code on it. We're then able to take those images and deploy them just like any other immutable artifact into our production, into our test environments, validating them, releasing them, and having the consistent experience for all those clients, which actually reduced our support costs quite a bit. On top of that, we were using traditional data centers since inception for our managed service, our outsourcing with our multi-tenant environments. We took them out of our data centers and moved them into AWS this year. We did that with zero downtime for those businesses. Some of the business impacts when we look at what they really were. Coming into this, it was taking us 40 hours to build out a new secure environment for our clients. We've reduced that down to 3. We can fully build out, fully deploy new updates in 3 hours for our clients. It's allowed us to achieve 600 releases so far this year. And we're projecting upwards of 1,500 releases next year. With the help of AppStream 2, we were able to achieve the SaaS expansion without a code rewrite. We were able to use our existing desktop application, leveraging the benefits of the scalability behind AppStream so that it deploys and scales for those clients. We've got 49 SaaS customers that we've migrated into that, and the multi-tenant environment contains over 200 customers. The improved availability and reliability of that allowed us to be faster time to market on new functionality. Not having to rewrite our apps allowed us to focus on building new features in, improving our reliability, improving our scalability. We're now doing deploys of code to AppStream 2 with zero downtime for our clients. We're able to swap fleets. The clients will either log off at the end of their day and come back in. New instance there is ready for them, built out, ready to go. We've also added cross-regional recovery for possible disasters if they occur. We can shift traffic from region A to region B fully automated at this point. And so far, since we've moved our software services into this, we've achieved 100% availability. Compared to where we were, having these benefits has just so improved our ability to deliver satisfied content to our clients and really removed the risk of legacy data centers, traditional software deploys, and other components from our environment. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Sorry. Thank you, Ryan. Go fast, right? That's a big part of, I think, the punchline of what we were trying to get out there. If you go fast, you can do some really, really, really special things. Ryan and his team, that blows my mind, right? 600 deployments this year. 1,500 projected for next year. That's crazy, taking a desktop application, turning it into SaaS, making it so much more available, 100% availability, zero downtime deployments. This is exactly what you want to achieve when you think about taking any one of your applications and making your users more productive, being able to do things like the cross-region failovers described. Again, if you can go fast, if your throughput can go up, you can do so much more with your services. That's exactly the kinds of things that we look to create for our customers. Quick recap of our customers. This is my opportunity to say thank you. And I can't say thank you enough. There are a lot of folks who've taken the time. First of all, for everybody in this room, it's 8:30 in the morning. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come out, and to work your way through the maze of reInvent and getting up in here. This is a very, very humbling, very special moment. Over 2,000 EUC customers registered for reInvent. 100 executive conversations. It's a lot of people that I've had a chance to speak with, and I'm still going to speak with for the rest of this week. And over 30 new customers as part of our EUC reference program. So this is all new, This is really, really cool. It's fantastic to be in person, to get a chance to chat with you. Thank you for everybody who's going to be taking a look at this over the live stream as well. Much appreciated. But there is a lot of work that we've done together. We're going to continue to do together. But it starts with you. And again, this is my opportunity to say thank you. All right, I want to take a few minutes and I want to talk about features. I want to talk about things that we have been working on, that I've been biting my tongue, I've been biting my lip, being not able to talk about all year. And finally, we get a chance to do it. So one of the first things that we announced just yesterday, we set ourselves up with a customer problem that we got a lot of really critical feedback on, right? Like, hey, why do I need a full desktop when my user is spending a significant amount of time just in the browser? And I've got all these SaaS applications, I've got a tremendous amount of intranet content, and that's really all they need access to. I don't feel like I should be buying a full desktop for this. What can you do to help me with it? And similarly, a lot of these customers are very cost conscious, cost driven, trying to say, look, I just want to still provide the productive experiences and tools for my users, but without those costs. So we partnered with a number of customers. Here's one quote. From the VP of IT at Centerfield, I don't need access to a full desktop. Many of our users just need access to a handful of websites in order to be productive. So we introduced a new service just yesterday called Workspaces Web. It is a browser only, it is a secure browser service. It's a fully managed service that you would come to expect from AWS, meaning that you will never have to manage the capacity for this browser. It means that you will never have to manage ensuring that your users have access to the latest version of Chrome. We do that for you. We will always ensure that your users have access to that latest version of Chrome, and no update is needed on anybody's part. This is something that we take care of for you. It comes with the full set of controls that you would expect from Chrome. Over 300 policy and security related features. If you want to disable the ability to copy and paste or print locally, save files locally, these are the kinds of things that absolutely we provide for you with Workspaces Web. It is a fundamentally awesome deal. And of course, we went about it in a lot of very interesting ways to enable those use cases that we described, the intranets, the SaaS applications. Of course, we're about making sure that you have full control of that browser traffic, and so you can choose to enable sites or disable sites as you would expect. You can choose to do very interesting things. So if your user wants to access Gmail in one tab, and if they want to be doing some of their contact center stuff securely, so that the data cannot move back and forth between the tabs. I always joke, if you're running a call center and a celebrity calls in, that you can't move all their data back and forth between the two. That is a big part of one of the things that we thought about with making this. And of course, with a browser, there's always this thought about security, right? What if I click on something that I shouldn't click on? What if I end up with some malware or ransomware? That's made a tremendous amount of press, especially over the last year, with some very popular incidents. Well, you know what you do with this? You just throw it away. That's what you do. You shut it down. And you start a new session, and it's as if nothing ever happened. That is exactly the kind of thing that we want to enable for our users. You can pick up where you left off and not feel like, oh my gosh, this security issue is going to infiltrate throughout my organization. And finally, that cost, right? I said we wanted to save you costs, and this is one of the best deals that I can think of that we've put out there to be able to do this. We firmly believe in AWS at driving costs down for customers, over 107 price reductions in our history. For us, we have, I think, a big number of different price points that we've got, from a full desktop to streaming applications, and now with Workspaces Web, $7 per user per month for up to 200 hours, and a very modest less than 4 cents per hour thereafter that. But that is what we are after. We are after totally changing the floor of cost for your users, especially if all they need is just a browser. More challenges as we thought of things. So, okay, we've had AppStream for a number of years now. Customers have gotten really, really good with it. They've been able to do some very, very complex things, as Ryan described. All right, but you know, when we're getting bigger, when you're deploying 1,500 times a year, when your workloads are across the globe, when your employees or when your users are accessing it from everywhere, it gets really, really tough to think about how are you going to estimate these costs, right? Like, and if you're an ISV and you're setting a price on accessing your application, you've got to figure out what this means, right? This is going to factor into your margins a little bit, and we get that with good feedback. And so, you know, our job is to make this a lot simpler for you. Our job is to say, okay, we want to be able to help. And so we you know, scratched our heads. And what we came up with was something that may sound a little bit familiar. We call it elastic fleets. This is very, very much so like the concept of Lambda a few years ago. You take a snippet of code and you can run it in the cloud. Well, now you can take an application, you can deploy it to a virtual hard drive, and you have a serverless fleet type. So we've got a couple fleet types with AppStream. You've got your on-demand, you've got your always-on. Now we've given you serverless. Right? You are never going to have to worry about provisioning capacity. You're never going to have to worry about configuring your auto-scaling groups and your concurrency and all that kind of good stuff. We take care of all of that for you. Just deploy your application to this hard drive, and we will attach it to the EC2 instance. We will manage all of that capacity. We will ensure that your user is not going to have to wait a significant amount of time for that capacity to get warmed up, for the application to get hydrated on the instance, etc. It is going to be there ready for you to start using it immediately. Again, aiming to reduce costs, right? With this, we've had customers throughout our beta estimate up to a 30% cost savings by moving towards elastic fleets, and tremendous amount of feedback that we've had there. Similarly, that capacity management, right? That image management, those things that you would expect from a fully managed service, those things are absolutely there for you. So no more creating images and copying them and figuring out how to secure them across the world. None of that stuff. No more thinking about what do my concurrency settings need to look like, how many users am I going to have at peak so I can set my costs. Now that's something you don't have to worry about. That's something that you can just call the service, deploy the app, and you're good to go. The very last thing I want to call out, insofar as features, new big launches, it's a partnership. And stay tuned to this because there's going to be a few more that get announced here shortly. But our first one is with a company called iGel. So if folks are familiar with iGel OS, I'm sure a number of folks are. This is a really, really cool opportunity that we have partnering with iGel, ensuring that our Workspaces client is sort of natively integrated into their operating system. This is about, again, helping customers go a lot faster. So we started with iGel, and again, stay tuned. Many, many more coming. We can't do it all ourselves. This is, you've heard me say a bunch of times, this is about our customers and saying thank you. Well, I also want to give a quick shout out to all the partners, 30 global partners that we've had a chance to work with. A very special group of folks, some of whom I see here today, some of whom I've had the opportunity to chat with throughout the week. Really, really, really special group of folks. Every IT environment, every customer is a snowflake. To some extent. And so, that this is really important insofar as being able to see what's out there in the field, to be able to react quickly, and to know that as a customer, you have a very experienced group of partners with whom you get a chance to work with in AWS. Last but not least, please do take a moment, check out some of the other sessions that we've got, 8 of them. Really, really cool stuff, talking about a variety of different topics for end-user computing, from security to getting going with what we have here. And of course, here's this leadership session. I'll be around for a few minutes afterwards to be able to hang out and answer any questions that I can. With that, 8:30 in the morning. You guys are troopers. Thank you so much for coming out. Please do take a moment to complete the session survey when you get a chance, and I look forward to chatting so much more with you. Much appreciated. Have a great reInvent. Have a great rest of your day.